Hey, so I'm going to keep things moving. I will say two things before we get to the next panel. I deleted Facebook and Instagram a year and a half ago. I've never been happier. Try it. Second of all, our sponsor, Spectrum Networks, actually has a really great local news site, a news channel called New York One that covers local news, covers local elections. There is an election on Tuesday. Ranked choice voting is on the ballot along with a couple of other things, including public advocate. And so please show up and vote if you're registered to vote. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up our next panel. The moderator of this panel, who's going to be doing the interviewing, is a really old and dear friend of mine, mostly old. His name is Craig Parks. He is the general manager of brands at Jukin Media, which has Fail Army and a whole bunch of other really great YouTube channels. Thanks so much to the panel here. Great job. Really fascinating stuff. And if you have an opportunity to go work in local news, do that, because there's probably nothing more important for our democracy over the next 25 years. So without further ado, while they move the chairs around, I will ask Craig Parks to come to the stage.
Here we go. Hey guys, I'm the old guy that Evan referred to. So a lot of what we're talking about here today, of course, is how to become successful in this industry. Certainly a lot of the themes you've been hearing about hard work, do your research, ask all the questions, all of those apply to being an entrepreneur, right? Some of you guys in here might have ideas, things you want to do, might think that your idea is a really, really good one. Obviously, you should, if you are one of those people, you should absolutely do that. The question is how. If you have an interest in being an entrepreneur and one day run your own company, you have to really think through what you're looking at here. There's been a lot of stories out there, especially lately. I don't know if you guys have been following what's happening with WeWork. Obviously a very well thought of company, hugely successful. It turns out that certain people at the top, the guy who was running it, was not necessarily looking out for its best interests. We hear a lot of those stories. You guys have probably seen the movie Social Network, right? There's a lot of flashy, sort of exciting, and sometimes controversial stories about being an entrepreneur. The truth is it's really, really hard work. It's one of the scariest, toughest things you can do, but of course it's also one of the most rewarding things you can do. So I'm really excited to bring out a guy named Jonathan Skogmo. He's my boss. He's my friend. I work with him at Jukin Media, which is the company that he has founded. So I'd like to, guys, please join me in welcoming Jonathan Skogmo to the stage. Thanks, sir.
Any one of these?
Anyone? I think so. Does that work? All right. Yeah, you bet. Jonathan and I work out in Los Angeles. We have offices here in New York, in London, and New Delhi. So let's jump into this. I think first we'll show a little video in a second, but why don't you just give us a background? What is Jukin Media?
Yeah, Jukin Media, we consider ourselves a media company, except everything that we do is powered by user-generated content. That's content's a lot shot on these mobile devices. That's in my pocket here. Content that's shot on drones, stories and videos are shot by everyday people, and we actually go out and find the rights to that content, and we bring it in. We find different ways to monetize that content, and so one side of our business, we have a licensing platform. Think of us as like the Getty Images for viral video, where we license a lot of morning shows, news shows, talk shows, work with a lot of publishers and brands. And then the other end of that business is a business that Craig runs, is really taking those really great stories and telling bigger stories with that. And so we've created these really great content brands, Fail Army, People Are Awesome, Pet Collective. We have about 200 million fans between our 5 owned and operated brands. And we do about 3-ish or so billion views a month. And so at the end of the day, we're just like any other media company, except we're powered by really amazing content that's shot by like people in this room.
Thank you. And I think just real quick, guys, if one of you creates a video, say you capture a video of your dog doing something really cute, or your friend completely, face plants off a skateboard. Let's say that video, you put that video on YouTube and it gets seen by 300 million people. Do you guys have any idea how much money you're going to make off that video? None. Zero. Facebook, YouTube, whoever that platform's on will make a lot of money off that video. Jukin helps people like us, all of us, regular people, monetize these videos and protect that video from being stolen and ripped off and things like that. That's sort of the part of what we do. Just wanted to give that context. But let's take a real quick look at, we'll just show you a reel real quick of our universe that we work in.
You can look at him. Oh my God! Are you pregnant? You did it! I did it!
Say, I am strong.
I am strong.
Okay.
Will you marry me?
Is this for real?
Yes.
Oh my God, yes!
Very cool. So John, how did you get the idea for Jukin Media? Tell us about how it started.
Yeah, so I have to go back a little bit. In my career, I always wanted to be in media entertainment, and when I first moved to Hollywood about 15 years ago, actually one of my first jobs was being a researcher on a clip show. And think of a clip show like America's Funniest Home Videos. And actually my job was to go to the P.O. box every day and pick up VHS tapes. You guys know what those are? But I couldn't believe it because that was the only way to get on this TV show was you to send in we had people to send in their tape. At the end of every episode, we had a call to action. And so folks would send in their tape, and I would be the one going to the P.O. box and picking up these really big boxes and looking through these tapes. And if any of them were any good, most of them were really bad. I had to call them up. I had to try to read their handwriting, decipher it, say, hey, can we get some more footage in? Can you sign this paperwork? And it was a very archaic system, and this is back in 2004, 2005. And I thought there just had to be an easier way. I thought, why don't we reverse the model and go out and find content? Obviously, you can find whatever you want online, but back then you really couldn't, which actually wasn't that long ago. But I told my producers, let's sign up for some websites. Let's reach out to people directly. They told me, shut up, kid, go to the P.O. box. Me kind of just being the person I am, I said, I'm going to reach out to these video owners. And there was this one website that no one ever heard of before, and it was populating some really great content, and it said, my dad did this, or he fell over or something. I thought, okay, well, that's a good indicator. This person probably owns it, because it's really hard to find the rights holder, even today. But to make a long story short, I started reaching out to these video owners directly, license their content, and then putting it in television, and nobody was doing that at scale. When I was asked what platform that was, how did I find these videos? Well, what was the name of that website? And it was called YouTube. So I was just lucky to be an early adopter to YouTube and leveraging the platform to help find content for traditional TV shows. I started producing a lot of these type of shows, and I'm producing shows for MTV, for Discovery, for True TV, when I realized that user-generated content's not going away. And when smartphones came out in 2007-ish, it was a great way to shoot more content, capture more content. You could share that content. And I just thought the stars were aligning that someone actually had to start owning this intellectual property.
Right. So initially your idea was that okay, I'll go get this content and turn it into television. At what point did you realize that there was a larger audience or a larger customer base, if you will, for this content?
So I just knew that people were then monetizing this content via YouTube at the time. And so in 2009, when I quit my job for Discovery, I realized there's a lot of value in this IP. And in the small clip show world, I knew exactly how much that value was, but I also realized there was a method you can monetize that digitally as well. And so really started investing in YouTube a few years later where we started creating some of these brands. But yeah, I really thought there was a lot of value in these little assets where a lot of people didn't think there was any value in them at all.
So right now, one of our largest customers is Google. And, Google, which owns YouTube, they come to us to actually help find and clear content that goes into their commercials. So we now, some of our other customers are like advertising agencies, and who else are we working with?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that actually Google hires us to find YouTube videos. We've really built this really unique system today. I mean, we now have the company is about 180-ish employees, offices worldwide. We built this robust 24/7 system and really built a lot of technology to help find these really great assets. But brands are coming to us more and more like Google because this content is very real, as you saw in the reel here. It's authentic, it's organic. And so we're working with Starbucks, working with Coca-Cola, we're working with Nike. They're coming to us and they want videos of people using their products and services or evoking some sort of emotion. So it's really cool to have these companies come to us and we can help curate that content for them.
Yeah, and just overall, what do you think is the key to Jukin's success in this? There's a lot of disruption going on, very, very tough space in the digital environment, especially now. But what do you think our key to success is?
Well, I think us being different and unique is definitely helps us, and it's an advantage to us. Like I said, people were discounting these videos that we are acquiring for such a long time that I feel like that we can build this media business, which we have built, and really be cost effective. And I think the problem is with media companies especially media companies, it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of capital to grow these businesses. One thing that makes us different is that we've pretty much self-funded the company. We're a profitable company at the end of the day. We've raised some money from some strategic investors, guys like Disney, guys like Bertelsmann, Samsung, Peter Guber, but we've actually never touched that investment capital. And I think our ability to continue to bootstrap the business puts us at a competitive advantage.
That's good. Well, let's talk about you for a little bit. When you graduated high school, did you have any idea what you wanted to do?
Like I said, I think I always wanted to be in media entertainment, but I was always an entrepreneur at heart. So I always had some sort of business. Even at 11 years old, I did newspaper route. And I turned that into a business. I was getting paid 10 cents a paper. And for me to grow my routes, I realized I had to recruit other kids in the neighborhood. And so I started a syndicate. And I paid them, like 3 or 4 cents a paper every house I delivered until I got caught. And they told my mom I couldn't be doing that anymore. But from a very young age, I really understood the power of being an entrepreneur. It was just, I think, something that was always in my blood, and I always loved the entertainment world. And so I've been very lucky to really be able to combine both those skill sets.
Right. Along the way, Jukin successful, were there some failures along the way?
Oh, there's definitely a ton of failures along the way. I think you learn from your failures. More than your wins. For such a long time, for anybody who wants inspiring entrepreneurs in this audience, for such a long time, I was so used to getting the word no that when finally somebody said yes to me, I couldn't believe it. It's kind of the opposite now. I like the word yes, and when someone says no, I can't believe it. I'm like, what do you mean you don't want to work with us? But there were so many failures along the way and so many struggles. Our tagline and Fail Army, or one of them at one point was, failure is the only option. And I really believe that. You have to fail in life in order to get ahead. And what you learn from those failures is what you make out of them.
Any examples of a failure and something you learned that you're willing to share?
Where do I begin? I think it's just anything, I'll just be very general. I don't think there's any one particular story that comes to mind, but, it's the way how you would present something, the way you would pitch something, the way, how you would put together a presentation. Unless you fail at it, unless people say no, you don't understand what's working, what's not working. And so it takes time, it takes a skill set. You have to have a very thick skin. You have to get really used to the word saying no, particularly in entrepreneurship and in entertainment. I mean, those are two words, or that's one word that you hear a lot in both those industries.
For sure, and that's a good transition to just the idea of being a CEO, being a head of a company, being an entrepreneur. What are some of the biggest challenges for you, and what have been some of the biggest challenges to you?
Yeah, I think the number one thing I would say that keeps me up at night is the employees and is the staff. And the fact is that we have to pay for these guys every day. We want to put food on their tables. They're supporting families. And the lives of the 180 employees that we have, which is a fairly medium-sized business, we're responsible. I'm responsible for them at the end of the day. And, you're not just responsible for them, but the family that they take care of and the spouses that they have. And so it extends to a lot more than just the people themselves. And so not being able to do that one day really kind of scares me. I want to make sure their paycheck clears every single day. So that's my number one priority, is to the staff and to the employees.
So then, when I kicked it off, we talked a little bit about some of the horror stories and big flashy stories that we read in the press about companies that crash and burn, or stories where someone once goes from rags to riches and now is a multi-billionaire. From your perspective, or in your opinion, is it more important to be profitable, or is it more important to make a big splash in hopes of scoring big? What drives you, and what do you think is most important?
Well, I think it definitely depends on the business at the end of the day and what the focus of the business is. For us, we're really lucky is that, the core to any media company is the IP ownership, whether you're Disney or Netflix, Disney having Marvel, and Star Wars and all the other IP that they own. Netflix, they're investing their own IP. The thing that we've been very lucky is the IP that we acquire, these everyday videos, we can get them fairly cheaply, and it's fairly cost effective. And so for us, and the way we operate, is very important that we maintain those profitability, maintain those margins. And I don't think it's necessarily true to every business. A lot of tech startups, a lot of them lose money for a very long time. A lot of them never have a path to profitability. And some of them get acquired on that. They get acquired on their user base, or they get acquired on their technology. So it really kind of depends on the company and what their focus is. For us, it is so important that we maintain good margins and we maintain that profitability. I don't think, also me being an entrepreneur, I don't think I could ever be that type of person to be a running company and not be making money at the end of the day. And there's some people, I think I just read an article about a tech startup, and you mentioned WeWork earlier, those crazy unicorns that were a lot of money on capital being deployed in these companies. I think those days are over, and I just read this article from a CEO who had I think this is second or third startup. He's never made it. He's never had profitability, and he can't imagine ever doing it. And his head just doesn't work that way. For me, it's the opposite.
Right. Do you? What are you most excited about day to day? Like when you get up in the morning, come to work, what drives you? What gets you going?
So a couple of things. I think, when I quit my job for Discovery, bootstrapped this company from my apartment. I was stealing office supplies from my previous job to start the company. I had folding tables. This is as bootstrapped and as scrappy as you can get. I mean, it was really ridiculous, but that's what you got to do as an entrepreneur. You have to be scrappy. You have to be bootstrapped. Today, 180 employees, 5 offices, LA, we're headquartered in LA, New York, London, New Delhi, a few other people scattered around the world. But it's those 180 employees that I get to work with every day is so rewarding. It's rewarding that we are creating something, that was started from nothing, and now we're getting a lot of momentum, and we're creating great work product. We're really proud of the things that we do, and the people I do it with is so important. Life is too short if you are not passionate about what you do and the people you do with it, the people you do it with don't be in it. And so I'm very excited about the people I get to work with, and that's what really motivates me. I learn something new from every day. When we are at our senior table, you look around at the table, we have such a great, unique folks that bring such a different skill set. I learn from everybody at that table every single day. We all have different experiences. We're all products of our own experiences and our own backgrounds. There's a lot of battle wounds we all have and share. And so the fun thing is just constantly learning and constantly learning from your peers. That's what really, really drives me.
You and I feel the same about that, and that's a good transition to advice. What advice do you? So, if someone out here is sitting on an idea that they feel is got to be a business, there's got to be a business there. What's your advice to this person, right off the bat?
So recently, somebody came to me who was working in media entertainment. He was more working on the legal side. I think he really liked that space and liked that world. But he had this idea for a new company. And I would meet with him for coffee or for drinks every few months. And we would talk about the business, what's going on, sharing stories, that sort of thing, how's work. But he kept on coming back to this idea he has for a business every time I talked to him. And I finally, he was asking me, should I do it? Should I not do it? Should I do it or not do it? I said, just do it. Because if it's gnawing at the back of your head, if you have an idea and you feel like you can do it better than anybody else, and there's an opening in this area, in this space, or a problem that you're trying to solve, and all you can do is think about it, and that's what you keep on bringing up in every conversation, then just do it. And you will never have any regrets.
Right. So, I mean, it sounds like half the battle then is just the tenacity, the belief that your idea is absolutely solid and there's value there, right?
Totally. Your idea is a dime a dozen, too. Me working in the clip show world, I made a name for myself producing a lot of these type of clip shows when I was jumping around from network to network. I wasn't the only one who had the idea that somebody should start buying and aggregating and curating these assets. It's the actually taking that leap of faith, taking that step forward. That is the hardest part, and believing in yourself that you could do it. Because nothing's going to be a time waster. If you have this idea and it just keeps bothering you, you just do it. And it doesn't mean you have to raise a whole bunch of money. I mean, at first, you could start small. We have a big belief in the MVP, which is creating the minimum viable product and just getting it out there and just testing it. And people can do that. They don't have to, necessarily quit their job. They can do it on the side. They can moonlight. And so I think just going out and doing it is the most important thing.
Are there bad ideas?
There's a ton of bad ideas. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think you learn that along the way. And I've had a ton of bad ideas too. I just look back on it and just say, what the hell was I thinking? Sometimes you think it's such a great idea and you work yourself up, but you don't know it's a bad idea unless you try it, unless you try to execute on it.
Right.
And that's my point. You got to at least try.
So in somewhere along the way, I'm assuming, poking holes in your idea, going to as many people as you can to ask for advice. And I mean, how do you poke holes on your idea before you decide to take that leap?
Yeah, I think definitely you want to talk to people, see if it's a good idea or not. But also in other ways is, believe in your gut. And believe this is something you want to pursue and you want to be passionate about. I think you have to realize that, I quit my job 10 years ago. It's an uphill battle. It was like I said, a lot of no's, a lot of long nights, blood, sweat, and tears, crying. I wear a hat because I lost all my hair because of all the stress. But it's just something that, it's just, you should get as much advice as you can, but sometimes you just have to say fuck the advice, and just do it.
So some of the things I'm hearing, certainly steadfast, passionate belief in your idea, tenacity, the ability to the expectation that you're just going to have to work your ass off, take advice from wherever you can get it, surround yourself with people that you like, right? That's
never stop learning.
Never stop learning, for sure. What are some personal qualities? We've touched on some personal qualities. Or what are some other personal qualities? Humility. Sounds like for you, humility and the willingness to learn is a big one. Anything else that you can think of that you think about when?
Yeah, I think you talk about tenacity, but I would say it's just like the effort. Like you just can never give up. until you give up. I mean, just keep on trying. If it's something that you truly believe in, you're going to get a lot of doors, and you got a lot of people shut it in your face. I mean, for example, I just mentioned the brands that we work with, the biggest brands in the world, everyone from Google to Nike, Coca-Cola. 5 years ago, we couldn't get a single brand deal. Not only are we selling media again, with brands, we're doing custom content with brands. We're also licensing brands for a lot of TV commercials and social campaigns.
Yeah.
And so,
it just we're jumping back and forth, but so you got a successful company and it's growing and continues to grow. What's the future for Jukin and for you?
So I think coming back to continuing having the IP ownership is just super important when you have a media company. It's one thing just to have a platform, but there's a reason why all these platforms out there, they're investing in the IP ownership, right? And so that's something we're going to continue to do. And so we have these really great assets that we go out and acquire every day. And then how do we expand those assets? How do we create bigger stories? How do we create more owned and operated brands? And so I think we have the roadmap. Do we do anything differently? Absolutely not. I mean, it's all about the ownership and exploitation and monetization of IP. How do we do more of it, and how do we do it faster?
I think back to the humility thing, I think about being in an entrepreneurial company right now, and just something I've learned in life is that the willingness to try something new, which is often very scary. The older you get, the scarier it gets. We do that a lot at Jukin. It's one of the things I think we do well at Jukin is we are really good at testing and trying. What are some of the areas what are some of the new areas for Jukin that you're most excited about above and beyond the licensing and exploitation of these clips?
Well, I think the new delivery methods of how people are consuming content is super fascinating, particularly on OTT and connected television, to see how fast that space is growing. Obviously, it's no surprise that people are cutting cords, but also that people are also watching it still in a linear fashion. I think it's super fascinating. So you have the platforms like Pluto, which was recently acquired by Viacom. We are a big partner on them. To see that kind of company grow is, I think, very fascinating. Being involved in that space right now, we pretty much own 2 TV networks, which is kind of crazy, that we're distributing our content on these platforms, whether it's Roku or Pluto or Samsung Plus. And it's so exciting, I think, right now to be involved in this industry because we could own a TV network, and that's what we pretty much have. We have these 2 linear networks, and so I think that's super exciting. I think a lot of money is being deployed right now in the D2C space. I think that space is super interesting. We have 200 million fans. The only way we're able to monetize those fans is through advertising, and so we're looking to find different ways to sell to those fans, whether it's merchandise, whether it's some sort of subscription. And I think there's a lot of startups that are doing that space really well. You're seeing some of the major companies in the world now going directly to consumer, like Nike just announced their subscription. So it's a kind of exciting time, seeing how technology and media and now even just like commerce merging together.
Yeah. Dolly, how are we doing on time? Just so I'm not sure we leave enough time for questions. Okay. What advice for, you have college students here who are studying media marketing, media management, everything in between. In general, aside from just forget about the entrepreneur thing for a moment, what advice do you have for them going in looking for their first jobs?
Yeah, I think just like anything is that when you first enter the workforce, just be a sponge and learn as much as you can. Willing to do anything as far as willing to just go above and beyond, I think, the expectations. I think, unfortunately, millennials sometimes get a bad rap. And I think sometimes, though, the opposite. I think actually they're like the hardest working folks. I think they are people that are willing to go above and beyond. I think they're people that will bring fresh ideas. I think realizing that your first job is not going to be your last job And you could love it, you could hate it. As long as you're learning something, I think along the way in those early steps in your career, I think is really super important. I mean, there was a lot of places I think I worked at where I hated the environment, I hated the culture, but I did learn a lot. I also learned a lot like what not to do later, right? Because you don't know what's bad unless you experience bad. And so it's important to have those experiences. And so when you are out there getting your first, second job, it doesn't always necessarily have to be the dream job, but just think about it's a path to the dream job. And really appreciate that journey. I think along the way is super important. When I was a young production assistant, when I was researcher, when I was going to the P.O. box, I was talking, it was miserable. I actually loved it. The people there weren't the nicest people in the world. My bosses hated me. They used to make fun of me. But then the best is a few years later when they ask you for a job. It's the best revenge.
And now you get to make fun of me, so it's fun. No, it's very true. I think that's good advice, and I often give something similar. It's just take the pressure off yourself. You don't have to have all the answers right now. You do not. No one is expecting you to know exactly what you want to do. In fact, many of you, even for some of you who think you know what you want to do, you're going to start doing and realize it's not for you. So the first few years are really about learning and trying stuff and be that sponge that John mentions. That's right. That's absolutely right. Advice for your 21-year-old self. What would you tell yourself today if you can go back in time?
It's a great question. A little bit what I was preaching, that this is not like your first job. It's kind of like, I think your first few jobs is kind of like high school in a little bit. That it doesn't really matter as long as you are learning something along the way, and it's not going to label you by doing this one job. You have to do whatever it takes, right. And I think sometimes at points I could be a little cocky when I started getting a little success, and I think that's normal for anybody. And I think you realize that what makes you is sticking out for the battles, is sticking out for the hard times. When it's all good and rosy, it's easy, but you should respect also the folks that have been there, that have done that. And I think sometimes you forget that when you're young and you feel like you're invincible. There are folks along the way that have been successful, who have dealt with pain in their career, who've dealt with highs and lows, and really listen to them, and really listen to those folks. And try to find your mentors too. I think it's super important to everybody have a mentor. I think I definitely had a few over the stages of my career. It's just someone to talk to, someone to listen to, someone to share their experiences with. And I think you have that in different stages in life. And I think it's important that we all kind of find our mentor.
Yeah, that's a really, really good advice. And you guys have taken the initiative to be here, so you're definitely well on your way. Do you have any questions for John?
Absolutely.
So you probably have some internships, early career jobs within Jukin Media.
Yeah. So the question is, if you guys couldn't heard it, do we have an internship program? What do we look for when we're hiring interns? I love bringing in interns. For the fact is, again, I love that we're really hands-on. It's not a bunch of paper pushing. I think we've hired interns, and some of the interns now are like directors and VPs. And so we have a big philosophy of finding kind of that young talent and nurturing that talent and giving them a career path. I think that's super important. What we're looking for is just kind of people just like us, willing to work hard, people willing to roll up their sleeves. And I think you'll see that all the way through the organization. I think taking that initiative, as just Craig said, is such a huge, it's a huge eye-opening for us. I remember the first day we moved into our office, some kid off the street, 22 years old, he saw the moving trucks and he handed in his resume, And I thought that was really cool. And now he's a senior director at the company 5-6 years later. And so, like, loving people taking the initiative, people willing to, stick out from the bunch, I think is super cool.
Anyone else?
You guys saw one back there.
Um,
We have a mic.
so my name's Patrick Greenwald. My question is, what aspects of a newly founded company do you see and think, that's not going to work, it could fail?
Well, I think first and foremost, I also do some investing in some small companies or some small checks. I think not just like the idea. You can have a really bad idea, but have a really great team and founder and CEO who I think can make it work. I think it's the opposite. I think in the opposite, you can have a great idea and a really bad senior team, a bad founder, and it won't work. So I think it really comes back to the person who's leading the charge at the end of the day. I think somebody can sell a vision, somebody can sell a plan, somebody can sell a presentation. And so I think what I look at is the founding team. Like, do I believe in them at the end of the day? And I think that trumps over a good or bad idea. It's just really believing in the founder, because I'm investing in the founder. I'm investing in the CEO. I'm not necessarily investing in the business plan. I mean, that's at least what I look for.
Yeah. You have one more? Oh, we'll take one more.
Come on, we got somebody from the audience.
Nobody? Anybody?
No question. Career advice?
Got to get these guys some coffee.
No, you
Oh,
won.
Yes.
Yay.
Hi, my name's Anika. So a question I have for you is, how did you deal with difficult colleagues in the workplace, if you had any?
I think earlier in my career, I think y'all are going to experience colleagues you don't like. You're going to experience sometimes toxic environments. It's just going to happen. And I feel like you just have to believe in yourself you're the right, and you're going to be the better person at the end of the day. And so, like, even when, like, this crappy boss asked for a job a few years later, even though they're really rude to me, and I think entertainment industry particularly has like a rite of passage that you could treat other people like shit because you were treated like shit. I don't think you need to follow that rule. I think you just be respectful how you would want to be treated. And so when this person asked me for a job, I was just extremely respectful. Where every way I could have told this person, screw off. Do you remember that time? But I just believe in myself because I believe I'm a good person. And even the people around me, don't let the people around you affect you. Don't let that toxic environment. Just believe in yourself that you're doing the right thing and be the nicest person you could be and kill people with kindness. That would be my advice. Just believe in yourself and just be a good person.
Thank you. It's really great. Thanks, John.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.